Hi, this is Dee at Aloha Astro, and we're looking at a full moon in Gemini today. It's a mutable air sign, and it is November 27th, 2023. The lunation occurred at 4:16 a.m. Eastern Time at 4 degrees 51 minutes of Gemini. So let's take a look at the forecast for the day. Full moon in Gemini, Monday, November 27th, activates an urge for imaginative creation, communicative outward expression of ideas and feelings, and an integration of understanding which feels like a coming of age or bridging the gap between naivety and wisdom, as the moon opposing the sun and Mars in Sagittarius forms a mutable T-square aspect pattern with Saturn in Pisces, a trine aspect with Pluto in Capricorn, and a sesquisquare with Venus in Libra, while Venus is trine to Saturn, square to Pluto, sextile to Mercury in Sagittarius, opposing Chiron in Aries, and quincunx to Uranus in Taurus. Yes, it's complicated, but it is an excellent time to graduate from amateur to professional, apprentice to master, novice to expert, in order to expand the minds and wealth of others as well as your own. If you have been feeling stuck, you can find multiple ways to become unstuck. Changes in identity and relationships are possible now. Many people may question what they feel and believe about gender, sexuality, intimacy, and romance, and some may move into or out of relationships, change their relationship dynamics, or find acceptance in coming out. Gemini is a Mercury-ruled air sign associated with the third house of early education, curiosity, imagination, communication, sales work, local travel, community, and siblings. Sagittarius is a Jupiter-ruled fire sign associated with the ninth house of higher education, teaching, writing and publishing, intellectual and spiritual seeking, foreign travel, teamwork, promotion and marketing, and brotherly love on a global level. You could be focused on any or many of those things. Keep an open mind and welcome new ideas, perspectives, people, and opportunities. And here we've got a chart of what's going on in the sky right now. And as you can see, it is extremely busy with lots of aspects going on between the planets. Particularly, we've got Pluto really intensifying everything. That is the first thing that jumps out at me beyond the opposition of the moon and sun themselves, and the fact that we have Mars activating things further. Mars is always a call to action, and while it's in a fire sign, there's definitely more get up and go, a little more willingness to take risks and chances. The risk and chance factor is also highlighted by Venus in the sign that rules relationships, and Venus happens to rule Libra, making a quincunx aspect to Uranus in Taurus. We have Venusian overtones going on everywhere while we have Uranus in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So this is where you may be seeing changes in your love life or relationships in general, how you view them, how you are interacting with others, or the willingness to take the risk or chance and experiment, try something new, or put yourself out there again if you've been single for a while and you're thinking that it might be a nice time to be meeting people. And while we've got the moon and the sun in community-oriented signs, social signs, friendly signs, there's not as much emphasis on having to make up your mind immediately. It's more about making the acquaintances, making the friends, exploring, learning before you decide. Pluto does add some intensity to the expression of emotions, though, and how you want to maintain control over your feelings and your actions while it is supporting the sun and Mars and the moon through a sextile and a trine. Um, there's more in here than I could even write about, basically. I just wrote what the primary things going on hit me as I looked at what the moon and the sun were doing today. Obviously, the T-square pattern, this red triangle, is going to be dominant in everybody's lives right now. And Saturn is at 0 degrees 59 minutes of Pisces. So something about a foundation being put in place. However, what defines it? And since it is a mutable T-square, it seems as though we're looking for some new definition, or we're open to alternatives as we've got that mutable energy and this curious seeking energy. And within the energy of Pisces, anything is possible. There are really no boundaries, no borders. Pisces encompasses the all that is. So Saturn and Mars in a square, just in and of themselves, never mind the rest of the aspect pattern going on here that pulls in the moon, but that can be a bit of a reality check. However, we have imagination and fantasy and inspiration and high ideals being pulled into it all as well. I think the work of the T-square is to make the very best of even the most challenging situations and look for alternative ways to adapt and adjust. Probably the sign that's going to be able to give people the most insight or support right now, turn to your Virgo friends, actually. We have nothing moving through Virgo at the moment. Maybe we've got some asteroids that are not here in this chart, but we don't have any of the primaries in Virgo. But the Virgo energy, this empty space here, would be forming a grand cross with the rest of the mutable planets at the moment. And this is where there may be an unencumbered and clearer discerning perspective. So if you have any close Virgo friends and you're struggling with anything and you're looking for a sounding board that is probably going to be impartial and also go directly to the point and analyze what's going on and then give you some direct truth, you are likely to find it with people who have either Sun or Mercury, Venus in Virgo, where they're going to be able to anchor you a bit or help you decide which direction to head off in. Aries and Libra energy, we've got an opposition going on in here. We're just short of a second T-square. We've got one square between Venus and Pluto, which can definitely bring up issues of desire, control, jealousy, fear in relationship. And if you are going through changes in how you feel about yourself, others, relationship, and then you are discussing that with people, you are likely to touch on those raw nerves, and people may have a very strong immediate reaction, but it's not necessarily about you. It may be about things within themselves and perhaps a fear of losing you as they know you. But we still have change and growth operative here with Jupiter in a square to Pluto, that growth is inevitable and ultimately for the good, and Uranus to Venus, as well as the support Venus is getting with Mercury and Saturn, and Mercury in turn supports Chiron. It's all a process right now, and it requires the flexibility and the adaptability and the open-minded energy that the Gemini moon and the faster moving planets of Mercury, Sun, and Mars in Sagittarius are giving us to work with. And ultimately, even if there are strong initial negative reactions from other people to something, I believe that it's just a matter of getting through an adjustment period before there is acceptance and adaptation. Anything that's coming up that is negative is probably fear-based, because Pluto is that planet that is associated with power, disempowerment, control, obsession, upheaval, crisis, transformation, the drama of it. So it's happy with Neptune and with the Sun and Mars, but then the fear stuff comes up around things, even if they are good, even if it's going to make everybody happier in the long run, because Venus and Jupiter are benevolent planets. So even though they do square Pluto, and there may be some letting go or loss of control in order for things to become better, ultimately, it can still activate fear in people, or a resistance to something new that might be better, but it's unknown. Then we go back to the Sun and Mars in a quincunx to Jupiter that says, yeah, okay, I'll try anything once, it might be good. And Venus to Uranus, which pretty much says the same thing, but it brings in more people. When we've got Libra energy, it's the one-on-one relationships, and Sagittarius energy, it's the larger group, the friends, the people who are, our brothers and sisters in life. So it also is not just personal, as the Aries energy is indicating, but it's much more about how we're relating in a bigger level out there in the world. And if you're not comfortable with yourself on some level and how you express and how other people see you, this is actually a very good time for making the changes. Even though things are gonna, there's gonna be a lot of emotion flying around and a big dust up. Once that dust settles, and it's going to be like forgotten, in no time. Everybody will be like, yeah, okay, and move on, because the planets always move on too, and our lives move on. But this is an excellent time for a shifting and introducing new concepts and new ideas and establishing new foundations. Even though usually a full moon is about culminations and endings, in some ways the newness is going to be following something that might end now, whether it's a relationship or how you communicate, how you present yourself, how other people see you, maybe even the things that you think or believe, because these are seeking signs where you desire to expand your mind. And then we've got Neptune, very well supported for the most part with Uranus, Pluto. It does square Mercury. That can feel a little bit like a Mercury retrograde, especially with Neptune in retrograde. So this is where you might have a little bit of disappointment come in, especially if you thought something was true and you find out it's not, or you had a fantasy going on in your mind and you find out that's not reality, or you had high expectations about somebody or something and then it falls short of the mark. There may even be questioning of spiritual beliefs and whatever religion or practices you might follow, if it no longer seems to work or suit your needs, or it's nothing that gives you joy and inspires you anymore or gives you any peace or comfort, you may be questioning, well, what else is there? Or is it me? while we've got that Mercury in trine to Chiron in Aries. Just questions, questions all over the place. But when you pose things as a question, the universe usually wants to supply the answer, or your higher self or subconscious, which might already have the answer waiting, will then have the invitation to deliver that answer. So that might be a good tool for manifesting at this full moon if you use questions rather than affirmations and statements. But one that's worked particularly well for me in the past, when I say, I wonder, and then something after it, it very often does bring that very thing into being relatively quickly in my life. And the sense of wonder is definitely associated with that, early childhood energy, that childlike mind of Gemini, where this full moon occurs. That sparkly energy that just says, like, oh look, a butterfly, or oh look, this or that idea, or hey, you want to come play with me and be my friend. That's the mood with this full moon. And yeah, it has a little bit of sobering up or time to grow up in the T square, but some of the work of the T square is to create some foundation where you bring that childlike innocence and wonder along with the higher sage and wisdom energy of Sagittarius that has already experienced a lot, been there, done that, seen that, and strike a balance and integrate it into some new form. So that's what I get out of this. Very complex, lots of things going off like popcorn right now. Stay very flexible, imagine that you're kind of in that cat stance martial arts position where you're going to be light on your feet and you will adapt and adjust to things as they come up. All right, let's look at the Sabian symbol and see what that has to say. So we round up to 5 degrees because we're at 4 degrees 51 minutes. Gemini 5, a revolutionary magazine asking for action. Keynote: the explosive tendency of repressed feelings and root emotions. Every movement overstressing one direction calls forth in time an equally extreme movement in the opposite direction. This is particularly true at the level of the dualistic mind symbolized in the zodiac by Gemini. What is rigidly bound in form and convention tends to explode into formlessness. It may do so violently if socially oppressed through revolution, or at the psychological level in psychosis, or it may withdraw inwardly into the mystical state in which one identifies with an unformulatable reality. This 5th stage is related to the first, for it is the experience of a world of being so far unperceived by the everyday consciousness which starts the process. In the same sense, a psychedelic experience may momentarily make the mind transparent to a non-ego structured realm of consciousness, and may lead to a sustained attempt at understanding what has been revealed of a transcendent reality. Whether the revolutionary action is violent or peaceful, bitterly resentful or loving, the one desire is to reach beyond established forms. Well, it kind of says that complexity, and it definitely tags the Gemini Sagittarius opposition and the T square to Pisces energy, to Saturn in Pisces. And reaching beyond established forms is definitely what's happening while we've got that T square with the Moon, Sun, Mars, and Saturn. I can't think of anything much else other than the usual cautionary, be careful when you're traveling around, because these are signs that are associated with houses of travel. and they rule not just communication, but travel, and everybody's going to be a little bit quick and a little bit impatient, and Pluto is just pouring more intensity into everything, as well as some of the willfulness over being right, trying to dominate the mutable energy that we have in the sky right now. So watch out for things like road rage and people, driving around not paying attention to their signals. Anticipate that people are not going to be in their best behavior when they're traveling on the road or even in the air. If you're flying, I would recommend that maybe not today on the full moon itself, which is usually a bit more emotionally intense, but tomorrow, as the moon is more firmly in the middle of Gemini and moving away from the intensity of the full moon, take a look at your travel plans for the holidays and firm them up. Um, Reach back out to people, make sure you're getting those RSVPs and that you've covered all your bases and you're set, that you have those tickets, and get the traveler's insurance, folks, please. You will be happy that you did, because we do have the potential that carries forward in this chart, and also just while Mercury is square to Neptune, that there may be some changes, or there may be things outside of your control, like the weather, that would affect your travel in the days to come. So take care and stay safe, and I'll see you in 2 weeks at a new moon.